saw an interesting tweet that read, on paper, Hazel sounds pretty. Light skin, green eyes, and blonde hair, but she looks like a dog. And I thought it was interesting, right? Because not only did this person say this, but nobody in the replies from what I saw questioning. Nobody said, what about this combination of features suggests attractiveness? What about a combination of, opposite features suggest unattractiveness, right? What exactly, are you getting at here, right? Nobody questioned this. This person said this and everybody just went along with it. And I thought it was very funny because according to you all, we all black and come in all shade of phenotypic diversity. There's no such thing as colorism, featureism, hair texturism, none of that. We's all black in this system of white supremacy. But time and time again, you all tend to tell on yourselves. Now, I do not know who Hazel is, but if she is the woman who is in the picture attached to this tweet, which I'm assuming she is, I don't think this is just like a reaction picture, then clearly the blonde hair is fake. Clearly that's a wig or a weave, right? But let's set that aside. Light skin, green eyes, and blonde hair. Does that sound like a black woman? Like, let's think of somebody with these features naturally. If you saw somebody with a combination of light skin, green eyes, and blonde hair, and that was their natural features, that would not be a black person. At best, that might be a mixed person, right? But it could very well be like a tan white person or something as well, right? But bottom line, end of the day, it's not a black person, right? So you're sitting here hyping up a bunch of features that when combined do not a black woman make, right? But if somebody called you out on this, you would swear you not colorist, you not featurist, you not self-hating, you not none of that, right? And you just happen to come up with this off the top of your head. Like, it ain't got nothing to do with, like, Eurocentric standards of beauty and nothing, like, none of that, right? Now, look, y'all can try to spin it, if you take one of the features and maybe not the other one or something. Like if you just had somebody who was light-skinned, but they didn't have green eyes or blonde hair, we could say, okay, light-skinned people exist, right? Like, I have two dark-skinned friends. They had a baby. She is light-skinned, okay? Now, realistically, we know that light-skinned people were not getting on those slave ships. That was not a thing, buddy. And I know some West Africans are about to be like, oh, well, in West Africa, we have light-skinned people. Well, guess what? White people were not in West Africa playing hopscotch. They was raping you too, goofy, okay? So, realistically, we know that light skin is not like a black phenotype. But because of the rape that we endured from white people, you can have somebody who has two black parents and has lighter skin, right? But this is the thing, right? This is what makes a light-skinned black person different from a mixed person. I swear before God, I'm not even joking, y'all. I can look at somebody and tell if they're light-skinned versus being mixed, okay? Because of two reasons, right? A light-skinned person has a black person's face. As weird as that sounds, right? It's like they have a black person's facial dimensions, but their skin is just lighter, right? A mixed person has an ambiguous face. They don't have a black person's face. They have a non-black person's face, right? And then also, light-skinned people have nappy hair. Mixed people sometimes they have nappy hair, sometimes, right? But a lot of times they don't have nappy hair. They have like non-black people hair, right? So again, being light-skinned in no way is the same thing as being mixed, right? But we do have to acknowledge, yes, that light skin did come from mixture with white people at some point, right? So again, if we tried to take some of this stuff and not the other stuff, like, okay, if we had a person who had green eyes, but they had dark skin and black people hair, right? Like there's a woman actually on YouTube. I think her name is like Sid B or something. I forget. I used to watch her a long time ago. But she's clearly an unambiguous black woman. And she has blue eyes, right? Or if we had, I'm sitting here, I'm like, blonde hair. You don't really see that on black people. But my point is this, right? You could try to argue it if this person had just said one of these things, but not the other ones, right? But the fact that you combined all this light skin, green eyes, blonde hair, this is clearly like Eurocentric standards of beauty. Why are we sitting here playing dumb? And then my thing is, when somebody calls this out, y'all are gonna be talking about, what? How this colorist? How this uphold and watch standards of beauty? So. Y'all always playing dumb about some shit. the funniest part of calling out white supremacy or any of its offspring, because colorism, featureism, hair texturism, those are all just the children of white supremacy, right? It all goes under like the white supremacy umbrella, right? The funniest thing about calling this stuff out is that it's always met with gaslighting from the offending party, right? So if I sat here and I called out something that was clearly racist, right? White people will be like, well, I don't see color. Clearly you do. Clearly you see it well enough to be racist, right? Like what are we talking about here, right? And the same thing happens when I call out like colorism. Light-skinned people be like, well, we're all black. Okay, that's nice. That's cute. That's cool. Good for you, right? But still, this is colorist, quite clearly, right? It's weird how it's always met with gaslight. Nobody ever stands on big business. My thing is, if you're gonna say something, say it with your chest. If you're gonna be racist or colorist or hair texturist or featurist or whatever, then do that and do it strongly. Say, okay, I am what I am, period. I am a racist. I am a colorist. I am a this. I am a that, right? But the fact that you all insist upon being these things, but then somehow painting yourselves as the victim, right? Because y'all will sit there and turn around and say you're a victim of reverse racism or reverse colorism. Dark-skinned people oppress me. Black people oppress white people, right? Y'all will sit there and turn around and paint yourselves as the victim after you just got done oppressing somebody. That's the wildest part about this. This is why I say all of this racism and colorism and all of this stuff is psychological torture, because at least you could just torture me and then be like, yeah, I tortured you. But the fact that you torture me and turn around and be like, actually, you tortured me, that's insanity. It's offensive enough when white people do this gaslighting, right? That's offensive enough, right? But it's expected. It's expected, right? But from other black people, it's like, how you gonna do me like this? You know what I'm saying? Like we are both black under this system of white supremacy, right? The least you could do is acknowledge the additional plights that I face that you don't, right? Because realistically, not every black person has it even under the system of white supremacy. That is the reality, right? In a colorist world, yes, darker skinned people have it worse than lighter skinned people. And before y'all be like, oh, well, that's just something within the black community. Well, first of all, that's bad enough because I shouldn't face it anywhere, right? But no, it's not just something in the black community. Darker skinned targets get shot by the police faster than lighter skinned targets, right? Like, quite literally, right? But you all will sit here saying, we're all black, we're all going to do the same thing. But no, we not though. No, we not though. And unfortunately, it makes me realize that some black people don't actually care about the empowerment of all black people. They only care about dismantling the systems that oppress them, right? Because as a straight person, I'm cisgender, I'm heterosexual, right? I can acknowledge that even after white supremacy is abolished, LGBTQ black people will still go through homophobia and transphobia within the black community, right? I can acknowledge that. So I don't get why light-skinned people can't acknowledge that dark-skinned people will still go through colorism in a world that is without race. I don't get why black men can't acknowledge that black women will still go through misogyny in a world that is without race, right? I don't get why as black people, y'all can't show other black people who maybe got a little bit worse than you a little bit of love. But the reality is the answer to that is that people, period, not just black people, right? For the most part, again, only care about the oppressions that they face. They don't actually want to dismantle oppressive systems. They just want to become the oppressor.